An old steam pond launch in poor condition, part 2. Performing a hydraulic test on this old copper boiler to make sure that it is safe to use as a pressure vessel. This is an essential operation and I would be very unwise to leave it out of the rebuild sequence. I'm getting the boiler ready for the hydraulic test, so I need to remove all of the ancillary equipment, apart from a couple of taps. This is what remains of the main steam feed to the engine, and this is no good at all. It doesn't have a lubricator, which is a bit of a puzzle really. I will be piping the feed to the engine in an entirely different way to the way it is at the moment, complete with a superheater, a displacement lubricator and a regulator. There's a small whistle on the chimney, which is currently piped to a valve on the boiler. This needs to be disconnected, and this is what I'm doing at the moment. You can get problems when undoing union nuts on pipes of this age. Sometimes if the pipe is stuck to the union nut, as you undo the union nut, the thin pipe will also start to twist and then it will kink and break. But luckily I didn't have that problem in this case. Once the whistle pipe was disconnected from the boiler, it was very easy to remove the chimney. The blast pipe also removed quite easily, but I did have to bend the pipe to get it out of the boiler fitting. In this clip I'm taking a look at the clack valve. This is the valve that allows water into the boiler but doesn't allow water out. It's a one-way valve, also known as a check valve. This one looks pretty corroded, and what I'm doing at the moment, with a little help from some penetrating oil, I'm removing the top cap to have a look inside it to see whether the inside of the valve is just as badly corroded as the outside. And the good news is it doesn't look too bad inside the valve, but the stainless steel ball was firmly stuck to the seat. You will notice that the entire fitting is full of limescale, as well as the stainless steel ball that I've just put back inside the fitting. More about this later. This is the water gauge, and as soon as I touched one of the nuts on the water gauge, the glass shattered, which was no surprise. I'm going to replace the glass anyway. And I also notice that there's plenty of limescale on this fitting too. I'm going to assess the fittings when I have them all on the bench in a separate episode. And then I think what I'll probably do is immerse them in my acid bath for a while, which will easily remove any limescale. I do not use sulfuric acid in my acid bath. I use some stuff called Kilrock K, which is kettle descaler. And this Kilrock K, used in a higher concentration than you would use in a kettle, quickly dissolves any limescale that's attached to any components. I mainly use my acid bath in the outer part of my workshop for dissolving the burnt-on flux residue after silver soldering, and very shortly this boiler, which is obviously quite full of limescale, is going to sit in the acid bath to dissolve it. It was quite a surprise to me to find so much water in the boiler after the boiler in the boat has been left for so many years. The next part to remove is the pressure gauge, so I carefully remove the banjo union. And this clip shows me loosening the union nut with my Barco adjustable spanner. You will of course notice how the Barco adjustable spanner does not round the edges of the nut, mainly because of the width of the spanner, coupled with the fact that the sliding jaw is a really good engineering fit in the slide. As far as I'm aware, Barco invented adjustable spanners, and I still think they are the best. I do have another Barco spanner that I bought, a larger one. But I think this year I'm going to treat myself and buy myself some more Barco spanners. I don't really need any more. The small one is over 30 years old now. And once again, not unsurprisingly, you will notice a lot of limescale in the siphon to the pressure gauge, and it's blocked. So I'm using a twist drill to unblock it. There it goes, it's no longer blocked. So now when I blow down the hole, some air comes out of the other end. I'll just bang it on the bench in an attempt to break free any more limescale. With the help of my very blunt craft knife, I'm removing the remains of a corroded aluminium washer. I'm going to replace these with copper ones. And now, by using my blunt craft knife again, I'm removing all the wooden cladding strips from the boiler. Now the boiler looks a thorough mess, but I do need to remove these strips because I cannot put the boiler in the acid bath with these on, plus I need to have a good look how well the boiler's put together. And although I cannot formally issue a boiler certificate, I do need to see how well this pressure vessel has been made before I can personally pass it as serviceable. I've just removed the chimney housing, now I'm removing the steam tap, and now I'm carefully removing the top cap of the boiler, which supports the chimney housing. Time now to give everything a good clean to just get rid of the dust so I can see how well the boiler's made. I must admit the boiler looked a whole lot better before I took the cladding off. As I'm going to replumb this entire steam plant, I'm just cutting the old copper piping out. I thought that this would be a good time to show what happens when you use aluminium washers on brass or gunmetal steam fittings. Now, to be fair, these aluminium washers have been in use for some time, maybe 40 years or more. So I'm really not being picky. I always use copper washers because they don't do this. As you can see clearly in this current clip on screen, there is no structural integrity in this aluminium washer. It's just dropping from together in my fingers. I think the reason that the aluminium washers disintegrate over time, considerable time of course, is due to something called cathodic corrosion, dissimilar metals in contact with each other. In this clip you see me cutting the piping with a pair of side cutters, and this is the only way I can do it because the pipe was threaded through a hole in the firebox area of the boiler, so I couldn't just pull it through. And now it's time to remove the firehole door, which is quite a nice thing really. As this is not a coal-fired boiler, this is not strictly a firebox. I will refer to it as firebox, then you know that I mean the bit at the bottom end of the boiler, as opposed to the bit at the top end of the boiler, which I would simply refer to as the chimney. And this part is simply referred to as a boiler band. Now I can get at the important parts of the boiler. I'm having a quick scrape around with my craft knife, and what I'm looking for is evidence of soft solder. If a silver soldered boiler leaks when it's first tested, then the builder may have used some soft solder to plug the leaks, and if the boiler gets overheated slightly, the soft solder melts and the boiler leaks. I'm lowering the boiler into the acid using a couple of pieces of silicone rubber tubing. This is very strong, and of course the acid doesn't eat it away. The boiler bubbles for a while, and this is not the effect of the acid, it's just the air coming out of the boiler, but the bubbling doesn't last for very long. Which means that the acid is now inside the boiler, eating away at all that limescale. Despite the boiler being in the acid bath for 24 hours, it did absolutely nothing to the glue on the outside of the boiler. This had to be manually removed with a scraper followed by sandpaper. I've already fitted an inlet union on the side of the boiler, but I'm opening the steam tap as well. This will let any air out and allow me to fill the boiler quicker. So now the boiler appears to be full of water, I'm replacing the funnel with the blanking plug, and I'm shutting the tap. Now I'm attaching the water pipe to the union in the side of the boiler, and now it's time to tighten up the union nut using my adjustable spanner. And I'm making sure that the nut on this union is tight. I do not want any water to leak out when I start to pump up the pressure. So it's quite important not to spill any water on the bench or anywhere near the boiler, because the whole point of this test is to see whether the boiler is watertight, and if there's any droplets of water on the bench, they could have come from the boiler, or there might have been some droplets that you spilt earlier. This part is very important, please listen carefully. The whole point of the hydraulic test is to put pressure into the boiler safely. So before you apply any pressure at all using the hand pump, you need to be certain that your boiler is full absolutely to the top with water. And that's why I refitted the steam tap at the very highest point of the boiler. And the reason for fitting the piece of silicone rubber tubing is that as the water goes into the boiler and displaces the air, eventually water will come out of the tap, and I needed the water to be away from the boiler, just as I mentioned earlier, so as not to confuse water on the bench with a potential leak coming from the boiler. I'm testing the boiler with a hydraulic pressure of 160 pounds per square inch, which is twice working pressure. During this test period, I had a good look around the boiler to see if there were any potential leaks, and the boiler's fine, there were no leaks at all. The pressure never dropped, the needle never moved in a downward direction. The only time the pressure gauge needle moved was when I opened the valve on the top of the boiler to release the pressure. You can see how quickly the pressure dropped once I opened the valve. I then placed the boiler on its side and drained the water back into a bottle, followed by removing the blanking plugs. Then I put the plugs back in my blanking plug box, ready for the next boiler test. And finally I removed the steam fittings from the boiler and put them back in one of the green boxes. In the other green box is all the cladding off the boiler which has to go back on. I'm not going to do it as part of this episode. I'm thinking of the best way to do this. You'll see it in due course. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website
and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.